So today I'm going to ask a very simple question of Wizards of the Coast. What the hell? Now, my channel is known mostly for covering singleton content. However, the new change that they kind of snuck in midday on Sunday during the MagicCon at Minneapolis kind of took everybody by surprise, and I've been processing it throughout the week here as I'm putting my thoughts into this. And I don't like this change. For those that don't know what they are planning on doing, this is what's going to happen. Normally in September, when the September set, which this year would be Wilds of Eldraine, comes out, we're going to have a rotation. But not this time.
What the fuck?
Instead, they're going to push rotations from a 2-year rotation to a 3-year rotation, and they are not rotating. That means that cards from both Innistrad, Midnight Hunt, and Crimson Vow, Kamigawa Neon Dynasty, and Straits of New Capenna are not leaving the format. So this means a couple of things to players. Either one, you get to keep playing with cards that you like to play with for a little bit longer, mix them with Wilds of Eldraine and whatever's coming after that, or you get to put up with cards you hate longer. So depending on how this goes, this has a wide-ranging effect on all the formats, really, because depending on how they print these things, if they keep printing the cards into the new 3-year rotation instead of every 2, we'll have more access to some of the cards that are going to be out there. But if they don't, if they just cut off at 2 years but still have the format open for the extra year, those cards are going to get more expensive, especially if anything is discovered to be, really messed up with something new that was released. Because there might be cards that just, they're like, whatever, these don't do anything. But then a new card hits the format from like Wilds of Eldraine, and then all of a sudden that card that's no longer in print ends up breaking a format. That card's going to skyrocket. So let's take a look here as the reasons why I think this isn't going to work, aside from that kind of possibility. The first thing I have here is people don't like Standard because it's a rotating format. And I will give you a primary example of what I have in my life as a Magic player. I used to play Standard very heavily back in the early 2000s. That was when it was still known as Type 2. And I played things like Ravager Affinity, Mono White Control. I even played a Bant deck that used Mirari's Wake to do all kinds of weird stuff, and then I used the blue to go use Cunning Wish and go get things out of my sideboard as a toolbox deck. There was all kinds of different things you could do. The problem is eventually that stuff gets stale, and then you're stuck with those cards in an extra long format. Well, then now we're stuck with no changes on the horizon for at least the next 5 months, because Wilds of Eldraine doesn't come out until September. The Aftermath set releases in paper tomorrow. It just hit Arena a day or two ago because they released it earlier on Arena than anticipated. And that's it. That's all it's going to be there. And the Aftermath set really doesn't have a lot that shakes up Standard. It's mostly stuff that goes into Commander decks. Now, what we got to do here is figure out what to do with this. So what do I think they need to do? Well, first off, you guys need to fix your standard your standard set releases. They are just crammed together too tightly. And I understand why they do this, because the sales do not do well during the summer. People have things going on. People do things during the summer. And I mean, that's great. I understand that. But when you have a setup where it's like, okay, September, November, 2 sets, February, and then in April, there's 2 more. That's only every 2 months that you're giving us to put in a set. We're not actually getting those 3-month gaps that you're saying, oh, it's every 3 months. No, it's not. It's actually every 2 months. And then there's a huge, 5-6 month gap over the, spring to summertime. Over the summertime, there's no new Standard content. All the summer sets have been either like Modern Horizon stuff, or this year it's the Lord of the Rings, and then they're also doing a Commander Masters set. And those things have no implications for Standard. So you really need to put these together. Either you need to spread them back out so they're actually every 4 months, or 3 months, for quarters, or you need to come up with a new summer set product that isn't a huge thing, kind of make it in between an actual full set and this dumb little mini set, the Aftermath, that just came out, and do it so you can actually goose the format and make it matter. Otherwise, you're just going to have a stale Standard for several months, and people are going to lose interest, and they're not going to come back. The next thing I think is a problem is it's the cost of the format. Now, Standard is not cheap to play. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I quit playing Standard all these years ago. It's probably been, I mean, other than on Arena, a decade or more since I last played Standard in any way, shape, or form. Why is that? It's the cost. I don't have a bunch of extra money to toss into something that's just going to disappear in a few weeks or months or just a year or so out. So instead, I put all my time and effort into Commander, and I also play a little bit of Limited. So what we got to do here is got to figure out a way to get these costs down. And the problem is, though, is the way they design sets now. These sets are designed to appeal to multiple formats. So if a card breaks out in another format, the cost of that card is going to skyrocket. Primary example, Shieldred the Apocalypse. That card is so pushed that it's an all-star in Standard, it's good in Pioneer, it's great in Commander, and it even sees a little bit of Modern play. And it's like, okay, great, so it's good in all these formats. Everybody wants a copy, and guess what? Shieldred as of today is around a $70 card. No card coming from a Standard set in this era should cost that much money to purchase, especially if you need to have 4 copies of that particular one card, and that's not even counting any of the other rares and mythics that might exist in your deck. On top of that, we have the issue with the mana bases as well, and this has been a pervasive issue for a long time. Shock lands, fetch lands, dual lands, like all these lands, when you need multiple colors, especially if it's like a 3+ color deck, you are just burying yourself on the mana base. You're talking at least $100 for a 3-color mana base in Standard, and that's just insane to me. They need to stop printing so many lands in that rare slot. I understand why they do it, and it's just a pain in the neck, because it's a twofold issue there too. On one hand, it's like great, it pushes your pack sales, but do you know how freaking crappy it feels to play limited, either sealed or draft, and open a rare land in your pack? That literally neuters your deck just outright, and then you have to hope somebody else is either on an off-colored rare that is in the colors you've already kind of tilted into, and they pass it to you in Standard. But if it's in your sealed pool, you're screwed. That's 1/6 of your bombs gone because you opened a rare land. And then those things go into the Standard format, and it's like, great, so that's a $10 land. Well, when you need 4 of them, there's $40 just in one land. Well, if you're doing that for 3 different colors and each of those lands are $10 a piece, you're already over $100 just in those non-basic lands. It's just a disgusting thing, and they really need to change how they do it just to make the format more affordable, because otherwise it doesn't matter how long you keep these rotations around. People are not going to stick around if they have to dump $600-700 into a deck and it's going to go away in either 2 or 3 years. It doesn't matter how long it is, because I can take that same amount of money and I can put that towards a Pioneer deck, I can put that towards a Modern deck, I can put it into a Commander deck. And those decks don't rotate. I can just keep adding stuff to them as time goes on, and I'm good to go, especially in Commander. So the other thing that I think is just absolute stupidity with all of this, though, is they think this is going to bring people back. I can't see it. I cannot see how this is going to bring people back into Standard. There's so many things that people don't like about Standard, or they don't like about the things going on, and you're going to force them to sit through this even longer than usual. That is not a way to succeed in getting Standard brought back around. So those are my thoughts on this. I don't know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments below, and as always, have a great day.